Call to order the Greenwood Redevelopment Commission on this, the 8th day of March of 2022. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Hopper.
I am here.
Mr. Harris.
Present.
Mr. Hoover.
Here.
Mr. Campbell.
Here.
Mr. Moe.
Here.
Mr. Alexander. I believe this. Notified us he will be absent.
All right, is there a motion to approve our minutes from our last meeting? So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Harris, seconded by Mr. Hopper. Mr. Hoover.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Harris.
Aye, yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Aye.
Mr. Hoover.
Aye.
Mr. Moe.
Aye.
Mr. Hopper.
Aye. All right, minutes are approved. 5-0. All right, new business, engagement letter and addendum with OWG CPA's advisors, the financial advisors for Worsville Road.
So the, both of these items are actually related to a potential TIP bond issuance for the Worsville Road Sports Park. They are currently working on some value engineering because the initial bids came in higher than anticipated. But once we do get that finalized, intent is to fund it with bonds on the Worsville Road TIP. The initial issuance would be a 5-year ban, which is a bond anticipation note, and then we would issue an actual bond once construction is complete.
Questions for Mr. Rowe? What do you need from us?
To approve the engagement letters for LWG and TAP to act as financial counsel and bond counsel.
And that's for both items here.
Yeah, both those items are the same project.
So moved. Motion by Mr. Hoover to approve both. I take it?
Yes.
Second. Second by Mr. Moe.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, he was quiet, but he was.
I know.
Yeah.
Speak out. Soft.
Any, any questions from the commission members on these two items? All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Moe.
Aye.
Mr. Campbell.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Hopper.
Aye.
Mr. Hoover.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, motion is approved 5-0. Old business, none. Capital project report, Main Street, South Madison Streetscape bid award.
A couple slides here. So this project, so how I get back to the. There. Sorry. Okay. So this project has been around a while. I started designing it in early 2019 in earnest. Went to bid it almost exactly 2 years ago. And then out of we don't really know what's going to happen to our finances or anything else, I pulled it. And then when we had the Madison Avenue project, decided it would be also the Worsville Road shut down last summer, it would be prudent to shut East West. So we got our plans back out and did it. It is this location here. It's been around, the project has so many years, it's had different names. Originally, we called it a hockey stick because it sits on its side. It has a short end there. You can see the long handle going back towards where it is. Then it just became Main and Madison and Meridian Streetscapes. Then it just became Old Town Streetscapes. And that's pretty much what we stuck with. What it does is basically double the width of the sidewalks through that narrow corridor, something that has been stated as a request going back 20, 30, I don't know, every downtown study that we've read and adds a new decorative traffic signal at Main and Madison, which current one seems to be going out about every day, so that must be good. You guys have already invested the money and they're out there currently. Duke Energy is moving some power lines underground to facilitate this in coordination with AT&T. And then a lot of the project is the stormwater infrastructure in this area is either non-existent or improvised. Is actually continuing the new storm system that we've been installing on Madison Avenue the whole way. And then also we expect the opportunity, which is a different part of the city that Mr. Hubert's favorite part, to be able to clean up a lot of those sanitary lines. You know, in Board of Works, he's all about sanitary replacement. So we got 3 actually pretty good bids, which we were happy with. Close to the engineer's budget. So the low bid was from Morphe Construction, 4.269. Going back multiple years at CIPs, we always imagined that the non-utility part of the budget would be about 3.5 million, and it's worked its way in there. You can see we line itemed out what the contractor has listed in their statement of values for sanitation and stormwater. And so the net actual redevelopment cost, one aspect I forgot is that they'll be the same, the roads won't be all brick, but they'll be brick crosswalks, 4 or 5 of them, including at Main and Madison, like we've got on Madison Avenue. So it's kind of a compromise of maintenance, and so you get that brick feel, but it's not like, was that a street at Franklin? I think it's called like the Andes. And I know they're trying to rebuild it, and it's going to cost a lot. It looks cool, but you don't get the full brick situation. And so we're asking for an appropriation gross from the RDC of 4.469, net after the utilities of 3,437,680 and 15 cents. Within that contract is $200,000 of contingency for bracing up and fixing some of the areas because some of the buildings, their outside facing the doors actually are built on the public sidewalk. And then there's also $100,000 in just who knows what we'll find under there. And then we added an additional $200,000 of contingency to get us the normal 10% that we try to get. So if there's any questions about this, we would look to start this spring/summer. We currently have a MOT plan that keeps 1 lane open pretty consistently unless there's some sort of, you know, if they have to, whether working on the signal there at the Main and Madison or something, would require a temporary closure. It would switch sides just like Madison did. And we're also working, what we hope, meeting with the water company who's looking at upgrading the water service all along Main Street and coordinating it to go in while we have the road cut open, so they won't come back years later and try to do that. If there's any questions?
Kevin, on the Reverie corner, if you will.
Yep.
So your plan is to widen the sidewalk there?
You mean north of Reverie on Main Street? So what will go away, what leaves in this is where those, well, it's not quite showing this. There's what is called a improvised left-hand turn lane that I guess was gained historically by removing on-street parking on Main Street. That turning motion goes away. And so the only kind of buildings that would impact is basically the Reverie line there, because you could turn into their parking lot from Main Street, and then you can also get there now if you go from Serena and come up. So we do sacrifice those at about 4 or 5 cars stack up there currently. That is what is removed. you'll be able to turn left from the other angles because there's much more capacity width there. But yeah, it would double essentially the sidewalk width in front of the Reverie and what's the bar, Smocktown, and the 2 new shops that are there, and also in front of what used to be the Columns. See, everything's changed names. And Beatles building there that also has the wine and canvas as well.
So, and as well as the sidewalks going north on Madison, that's.
Yes, so it would, yeah, so both sides of Madison get wider. Now there is the big trail that goes north. It does winnow down some in this narrow part to more of a sidewalk situation because there's just no way to carry that forward and maintain the ability of the 2 lanes coming from the north and one lane allowed, from people who would be heading north.
There's like turn lanes being taken out.
Correct. The main one is the one on Main Street. The one on Madison, you can still turn left onto Main Street, I believe, via what's the signal called? A stage signal that will allow you to move left onto.
But going west on Main Street, turn
Left
south.
is no longer in the picture. With the idea that if you wanted to go to places south on Madison Avenue, say you, for some reason, decided to get off at Main Street, then wanted to go to Roscoe's Tacos, but without going to Smith Valley, you would turn on to Meridian and take either Serena Way, which becomes a 4-way stop at Serena and Meridian, or one of the 2 new access roads being built through the middle school project, Orchard or Church, and then that would take you over to Dunkin' Donuts, Roscoe's.
Or if you want to go to the city building, you gotta go down.
If you wanted to go to the city building and you were coming from Main Street across, you would turn into Market Plaza and enter through one of the entries there, or you would turn off at Meridian Street, take Serena across and come in that direction. Which actually, we've been building back into this for the better part of a half decade. Started with buying the houses that made Meridian to improve that intersection, then building Serena Way, and then coming here. And when this is done, and then as part of the middle school development, the streetscape in front of the 523 project is done, the only section left of Madison Avenue that won't have the full kind of intermodal pedestrian vehicular access and improved stormwater will be the little part between Reverie and basically our building here, with the idea that at some point, if our front lot is developed, which has been on plans for a while, that the streetscape would come in charge of that.
You say monopolize questions.
That's okay.
The construction would start after April 9th. That's the spring block party we just approved last night.
Yes, they did consult that. I don't think with the way materials, manpower, and everything else is, that there'd be any way we could get a contract to them, sign the bonds, put up, staged, get them the stuff there. So when we talked to them about that, the idea was, yes, that it could be in before. You may see some extra barricades around, but
So we already approved this money back in 2019, so that I heard you say.
you approved that in 2019. You approved me going to bid, and you approved early 2019. You approved all the professional services, and 2020, before the world went crazy, you approved be taking it to bid. And then we took it to bid and then everything shut down. And so we're like, well, we're not gonna do that. And now we're rebidding it technically, right, Amanda? And that's that.
So, did you say, is this a bond being funded by a bond or is it?
No, it'd be cash on hand. There's significant cash. I just talked about it with Greg at the east and central to award the whole amount. There's 5.something free at the east and 1.1 in the central. But there would be reimbursements for their share because it is true utility work from stormwater and sanitation that would push us down to 3.4, well beneath the cash we have in the east and central.
Hey, Kevin, just back to Mr. Hoover's turning left on, turning south as you're coming west. Are you guys worried, because I'm thinking through that, are you worried that you're gonna have some backup problems if you want to go through that light, which you're gonna have to, turning left to get to the city at the post office? There's not much room between that light and where that turn is. You guys.
You mean at Market Plaza?
Yes. Are you worried there's gonna be some backup issues there because there's no peel around
Yeah, we
lane?
just, when the initial traffic study was done, we were already here. We're just not that popular. I think that maybe if you have a Suds drive-in, that produces a lot of traffic that goes down Market Plaza. But the stream into the city building, absent a special event, just is not that high. And I would also like to think that a lot of traffic to the city building comes from either Smith Valley or from the west as well. So good question, but when this was all mapped out in 16, that wasn't identified to be a particular punch point. And then there is also the relief valve of Serena Way, which comes right here as well.
Yeah, it's like, for example, I come from my office, come west on Main Street, and at 4:15, the line going west is backed up all the way past the church, the Baptist church, and I have to wait to even get over into the turn lane. And if so, if there's one car in there that's trying to turn left up there, there may be 2 or 3 switches before it can.
Which in theory they won't be allowed.
They can't be allowed to go left.
But that doesn't mean they won't
I
try.
mean, there's gonna be no left, there's gonna be no left
Yeah,
turn.
no left.
No left turn coming from the east. Part of that idea was to push traffic through there faster.
Kevin, if I also understand you, is that gonna be the same southbound Madison lane as well, no left turn?
No, in Madison.
Will that still have a left turn lane on that southbound Madison?
Madison has a straight / turn lane and a straight lane, basically, after the strike occurs. It's got 2 deals through there. I believe it's done by whatever the staggered signal is, or whatever they call it. So they will be allowed to go east, if I remember correctly, if you're coming south.
From a single lane, or there will be a turn lane there?
Or no turn.
There's 2, you know.
Be limited as the wide sidewalks.
What is that?
It's an angle.
Correct.
Especially when you get more sidewalk. Right, what's the width of the lanes? That'll be
11,
east and west, 11 feet.
the same that is on North Madison curve. And right now, I think that turn lane, that's not really a turn lane on Main Street going south is less than 1.
So it's a matter of conditioning traffic to use the other outlets.
And it's part of a much bigger, longer plan that Paul has executed perfectly over the years. Of Main Street not being a cut through to get to West Greenwood / White River, and encouraging people that we have Smith Valley, we now have Worsville Road. Worsville Road now goes all the way to Averett, and by the end of the summer, we'll go to Stones Crossing, County Line Road across there, and that by balancing out the cuts, the cut through traffic, Main Street can actually serve as a main street for people who are going to places in and on it, especially in this area.
I haven't been directly involved. But
Yeah, was just.
A big
I was
part,
just-
a big part of this though is, I think, trying to get the pedestrian.
Yes.
Access in Old Town, make it more.
Yes.
Pedestrian
So if you
friendly.
lived on, say, Mr. Harris's house, the only gap now to keep you from getting all the way down, pretty much, actually, you can get, once you get to Old City Park, you can get into Craig Park, you can take the Craig Park Trail to the Loop Trail all the way around Polk Hill. Your one place that narrows down at Kelsey, which the legal department runs this all the time, is the narrows from Pearl to those buildings to then where you can either hop into the city center lot or over into that new lot on Main Street that has the white sidewalk that takes you of Old City Park. So this fixes the last kind of no man's land for bikes and pedestrians going from essentially the south end of the mall, west and east of Old Town Greenwood, and then down into the park system.
What do you need from us?
The aggregate appropriation for a commitment of 4.469, net 3,437,680.15, and working with the controller and financial consultant to split that between the east and central TIF as appropriate.
So is this our first meeting for this?
No, this is actually, when I looked through it, we went out to bid, we went out and asked for you to go bid it last meeting. And this is actually, because I asked for you to go bid it the previous time, this is actually, I think, third over the 100,000.
Motion to approve the streetscape budget. Stipulated amount, bottom line.
Motion by Mr. Harris, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Hoover. Any other thoughts, comments, questions? I think my opinion is well known.
And we always say we're gonna have your phone number.
No.
That's fine.
No,
I
they,
haven't been real involved with this.
I've done 2 sections of Madison Avenue now, Main and Meridian, and Serena, OLG lot. Unfortunately, if you look at that map, I could probably tell you about every single person from here to Mr. Harris's house, owner and renter.
I can say this, I'm probably one of the biggest opponents to narrowing streets in a city that's overgrown its traffic patterns, but to see what has happened with Madison Avenue, which I was kind of a skeptic related to narrowing that and widening and making those trails. And I think that has worked out splendidly. I think that people are using it. I think that people are enjoying that space. And the idea to make the downtown area more pedestrian friendly, I think is the way to go based on the way Madison has progressed. I thought that was going to be a huge pain in the neck to travel through there, and it's not been a problem at all for me. And so this also worries me. This narrowing of streets worries me. But I think the target is to get people on foot downtown. And so I'm hoping, it is my hope that the effect is the same as it is there on north on Madison Avenue. And I don't share my opinion, just broadly like this, but I'm a skeptic of narrowing streets and that sort of stuff. But I do think that Madison has had a good impact, and my hope with this additional part of the project is that it would have a similar impact.
Especially when 523 is.
Right.
in progress.
I'm gonna provide 2 pieces of kind of color for that. The first is, I think it can work when you're actively widening other corridors that provide you the same way, the same in route, Worsville Road and Smith Valley with all the roundabouts. We're gonna talk about Abrick and Smith Valley. Paul's gonna get a big check tomorrow from the state And second, I think Main Street was widened in a way that did not work when it became Main Street, which is the minority of its history, in that it was traditionally Greenwood Street and went nowhere until the interstate was developed. Broadway is actually the zero mark, as Mr. Harris probably knows. That's where we used to get to North Madison. So Broadway was actually Main Street. This was just a road. And then when the interstate came and they ran into it, it became Main Street. And there was an attempt to take off the off-street parking. And it just created the mess Mr. Hoover mentioned earlier. Trying to create a connector through something that never should have been a connector didn't work.
Any other questions? Comments? All right. Roll call, please.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Campbell.
Aye.
Mr. Bone.
Aye.
Mr. Hoover.
Aye.
Mr. Hopper.
I hope it turns out wonderfully. Aye.
I see an open barrel sometimes.
All right, financial report. I hear we're not getting one. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, Greg, are you gonna get one?
So I know Adam sent out the link for the monthly financial report, but he also did send out the annual financial report that we have to submit to the state. I would like your approval of that report to submit to the state as of April 15th.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Mr. Hoover, second by Mr. Harris. Any questions for Mr. Wright? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, sorry, roll call, sorry.
Mr. Bone.
Yeah.
Mr. Campbell.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Hopper.
Aye.
Mr. Hoover.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
It's my fault.
Yeah, I know. Thanks, Mr. Cable. All right, department reports, Mr. Hodson.
Corporation Council has nothing.
Thank you, sir. Surrogate for Mr. Watson. Anything?
No report.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Wright, anything? Peony, the floor is yours, sir.
Good afternoon. I believe, Amanda, did you send me
I
a
did.
copy of this? Okay, I'm here today to ask for approval of change order number 7 for the Worsville Road Section 3 project, the portion between US 31 and Hayward Road. If you had a chance to review it, a majority of this change order has to do with utility relocations, utility locates, and the costs associated with the delays for those utility issues. The net increase in the change order is $7,055.53. And then because of these delays, it is adding 212 days to the intermediate completion date for this project. If you have any specific questions.
Say 200 days?
212, yes, there were delays initially when the project started in 2020, and then the project got moving. And then in 2021, it was about mid-year, I believe. There were issues with Vectren, CenturyLink, and then actually our sanitary sewer force main around the bridge. It was decided, even though it was thought it could be left in place where it was felt that it was best to move it out of the way. So our relocation was part of that delay for about, I think, 20 to 30 days. Yeah, there was a huge delay in the beginning, I know. Yeah, that was 212 days.
All right. Is there a motion to approve? Make that motion. Motion by Mr. Bowman, is there a second? It's the second will come from me since nobody's speaking up. Questions for Mr. Peony?
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Bone.
Aye.
Mr. Campbell.
Aye.
Mr. Hoover.
Aye.
Mr. Hopper.
Motion is approved 5-0. Anything from the mayor's office? Moving on, we'll move on. Is there a motion to approve our March claims docket, in the amount of $1,328,239.34?
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Hoover. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Miller. Questions from anybody? Roll call, please.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Hopper.
Aye.
Mr. Hoover,
Aye.
Mr. Moon.
Aye. Motion is approved 5-0. Anybody online have anything they want to talk about? You do, Paul? You have anything else?
Well, I forgot to ask or mention, it appears that the change orders for this project have been signed by the mayor and Daniel in the past. And so I don't know, does that need approval for them to do that, or is it okay just
Or
to have?
someone else? Yeah, I don't know. Great question.
Do you want to amend your motion to include them?
To include who? Paul?
The
Well-
mayor, and
There's a term from NDOT, it's the ERC employee and the responsible charge for a project for the municipality. And I believe that Daniel was signing in that capacity and not really as the city engineer, because it's an NDOT project. And I do have my ERC certification, I've had it for years. So I'm assuming I can sign it if you feel like you're.
What if we amended the motion in consideration to add the mayor and Paul, subject to corporation council's
Approval.
or I don't know, is it Mr. Watson?
Or
Mr.
outside
White?
counsel, yeah, I don't know. Makes that decision.
Well, I guess it's a city position, so it'd be corporation council. So if that be the case, I move to amend the approval to designate the mayor and Mr. Peony or
Whoever
another
that
person
allows.
that.
Whoever that says is okay.
Okay.
All right. Second.
I'll second, yeah, I'll second.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Roll call on that.
Mr. Hoover,
Aye.
Mr. Moon.
Aye.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Hopper.
I think you included all the good stuff, don't you? Yeah, I thought so.
The spirit's there.
Ms. Gibson, anything? You're the only person here, nobody online, so they have any questions. The only thing I mentioned last night, Mr. Campbell's, when looking through our annual report and thinking about what Kevin mentioned in our last meeting about the roundabouts at Averett and then at the high school, was the stoplight out at Airport Parkway and Main Street. And I don't remember why we're not putting a roundabout in there instead of a stoplight, because clearly we don't like stoplights. We put one in and we're taking it out, putting in a roundabout, because, but
I know they're doing some good construction. They cleaned
does
out some-
anybody remember why?
Oh.
Yeah, everybody left you, Paul. You're-
No, no, that's fine. I wasn't involved in all those negotiations, but it's my understanding that there was a tenant that was coming to that business park there across from where Oak and Barrel is, that building that's been there for years. And there was discussions between that entity and the city and the amount of employees that they would eventually employ at that area and the need for some kind of traffic control at that intersection. And this has been going on now about 4 years at least. And at that time, I think it was thought that maybe a traffic signal would be a good solution and also be quicker. Well, that hasn't happened. So I just feel that it was done because of that conversation. And I believe that entity's even participating in the cost of that traffic signal. $175,000. Yes. So, but I think it was also partially because of speed, timing, but that, of course, occurred.
I just hate to see another light that we're sitting at for 5 minutes when it's red and nobody's coming and going and making everybody mad going through there, so. That was the only thing I had that jogged my memory as I was reading our annual RDC report.
It just seems like it's taken forever to get the design work done on it.
Oh, it's
Because
done.
is it?
No, we're ready.
I mean,
It's
for
been
a long time, I can see when's it gonna happen, because I get a lot of calls from the people in Country Air And they're experiencing issues from Val Vista. And so they would like for those people to have a safer way to get in and out rather than coming through Country Air Drive.
The only hope I can give you is it's been a right of way issue. It's my understanding that we're very close on the right of way issue. Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, so hopefully it'll be out of bid this year. That is the hope.
I saw some bushes were torn down in Val Vista. Entryway, being sighted. With some wires there, I think that's part of it.
Anything else from anybody? All right, here we go. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.